وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى: ففروا إلى الله. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. Dear respected brothers and listeners, As-Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Master of the Day of Judgment, the all-knowing, the all-hearing, the most forgiving, the most merciful. And we send peace and blessings upon the beloved of Allah, the best of mankind, the best of creation, the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for me to deliver and act upon my message, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for you to understand and act upon my message. My brothers and listeners in Islam, when you and I fear something in this dunya, we naturally run away from it. When you and I fear something in this dunya, we naturally run away from it. But the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is completely different. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Run towards Allah, run to Allah, run back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is completely different to anything that you fear in this dunya, because you run towards Allah and not away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isa alayhi salatu was salam, my brothers, he was traveling with his companions on a journey. And whilst on his journey, after a short while, the three of them got hungry, my brothers in Islam. So they collectively gathered the money that they had, and one of them volunteered to go down to the city to buy some food. And all that the money could buy was 3 loaves of bread. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, this companion, my brothers, when he goes down, he buys 3 loaves of bread. And on his return, his hunger was so severe that he ate one of the loaves of bread. And when he came to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he presented the 2 loaves of bread that were remaining. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam says to the companion, who ate the 3rd loaf? So this companion was shocked, my brothers in Islam. And he was insisting there was only 2 loaves of bread. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he didn't want to argue with the man, and they continued their journey. After a short while, my brothers, the 3 of them got hungry once again. They successfully hunted a deer, cooked a meal, and ate their meal. And after a short while sitting around the carcass of the deer, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam pointed at the deer and made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deer came back to life and walked away. And whilst his deer was walking away, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, whilst pointing at the deer, says, by the one who gave life back to this deer, who ate the 3rd loaf? So the companion is still insisting, my brothers in Islam, there was only 2 loaves of bread. There was only 2 loaves of bread. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam didn't want to argue with the man, and they continued their journey. After a short while, my brothers in Islam, the 3 of them came across a river that they had to go across to go to the other side. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam asked the companions to collectively hold hands, the 3 of them, and by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all 3 of them were able to walk on the surface of the river and cross the river onto the other side. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, whilst looking at the river, says, by the one who allowed us to walk on the surface of the river, who ate the 3rd loaf? So the companion is still insisting. There was only 2 loaves of bread. He was still insisting. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam didn't want to argue with the man, and they continued their journey. And after a short while, my brothers, they got tired. They sat around a piece of land. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he gathered 3 piles of dirt. 3 piles of dirt. And he pointed at all three of them, and by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all three of them turned into gold. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, this is for you, this one is for me, and the third is for the one who ate the third loaf. And the companion, he jumps up, I ate the third loaf, I ate the third loaf. So the one who was insisting all the time there was only 2 loaves of bread, now there's 3 loaves of bread. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, my brothers, he said to the companion that all 3 piles are for you. You can take all 3 piles. All 3 piles are for you. But you will no longer accompany us on our journey. And this man, this companion, couldn't care less, my brothers in Islam. He found some new fortune, new wealth. Looking at his wealth, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam and the companion, they continued their journey. And after a short while, my brothers in Islam, 3 thieves were walking past. They see the 3 piles of gold. They killed the companion and took over the 3 piles of gold. And after a short while, the 3 of them became hungry as well. So they collectively gathered some money, and one of them volunteered to go down to the city to buy some food. And while this thief, the one who volunteered, while she's walking to the city, he is plotting and planning on how to kill the other 2 to take over the 3 piles of gold. And whilst the man is going to the city, the 2 of them that are left there, they are plotting and planning against him on how to kill him so they can share the gold. So this man who goes to the city, he buys some food, he eats for himself, and he poisons the food. And on his return, the 2 of them, before he could say anything, they kill him. They take over the piles of gold. They eat the food that was poisoned, and they also die. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, my brothers, he returns from his journey, and he sees 4 bodies dead, and the 3 piles of gold untouched, unmoved. And he says, this is hayatul dunya. This is a life of this dunya. You and I are holding on to something in this dunya that will come to an end one day. You and I are holding on to things in this dunya that will perish one day. And it is crippling us, my brothers in Islam. It is destroying us. It is the love of this dunya that destroyed those men, and it is the love of this dunya that is destroying all of us. You will leave this world with everything untouched, unmoved. Untouched, unmoved, my brothers in Islam. The wealth that you gathered in this dunya, the family that you will leave in this dunya, you will leave everything behind. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, يَتْبَعُ الْمَيِّتَ ثَلَاثٍ. 3 things will accompany you to the grave: your wealth, your family, and your actions. You've been to the janazah, my brothers in Islam. The family comes, the wealth comes, they shed their tears, and after a short while they leave. And the deceased is left in the grave alone, only with his actions, my brothers in Islam. You live in this dunya, you prepare yourself for this dunya, you work so hard, you set yourself in this dunya. And the only thing that you leave behind, you have when you go into your grave is your actions. Your wealth, your family, you leave everything behind. You leave everything behind, my brothers in Islam. If your actions were good, then you will reap the rewards in the grave and the hereafter. And if your actions were bad, my brothers in Islam, you will pay for the consequences. My brothers in Islam, this is the life of this dunya, and it is destroying us. And we have filled our hearts have become dead, my brothers in Islam. We have filled our hearts with darkness. Ramadan is fast approaching, my brothers in Islam. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, they would prepare for the month of Ramadan 5 to 6 months in advance. We as Muslims, we only open the book of Allah in the month of Ramadan. We frequent the masajid only in the month of Ramadan. Are we Muslims only in the month of Ramadan? We work so hard during the week, and we come and meet Allah once a week on a Jumu'ah day. The one who gives us everything, the wealth, the family, the bungalows, the homes, the cars. We forget Him for 6 days and come once a week, my brothers in Islam. Are we Muslims only on a Friday? We have filled our hearts with darkness, and our hearts have become dead because we have forgotten the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'll give you an example of my brothers in Islam. You know when you buy a new car, Mercedes, BMW, Golf, whatever you like, my brothers in Islam. You buy a brand new car, and the next morning someone becomes jealous and puts a big scratch on the face of the car. When you wake up, your eyes are crying, your heart's crying, your body is moving, is shaking like never before. But the same man, the same woman for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years has been missing their Fajr Salah, and their eyes and hearts haven't moved an inch. Haven't moved an inch, my brothers in Islam. This is Hayatul Dunya. The love of this life is destroying us. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'in, they would fill their hearts with the love of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we have filled our hearts with the love of this dunya. And who were the companions, my brothers in Islam? Who were the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'in? Who were they? They were those companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam who gave the quality of fear 1 month in advance. What I mean by this, my brothers in Islam, the enemies will be marching towards the Muslims to face the Muslims. But the Muslims, they would bring the quality of fear into the hearts of the enemies 1 month in advance. The enemies will be 1 month away, a distance of 1 month away, but just the fact of facing the Muslim will bring the fear in their hearts 1 month in advance. 1 month in advance. And who are the Muslims? Always outnumbered, outweaponed, less in everything, my brothers in Islam, less in everything. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the hadith is speaking to these men who brought the quality of fear in the hearts of the enemies 1 month in advance, my brothers in Islam, 1 month in advance. And live this hadith with me, my brothers in Islam. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that a time will come when the enemies of Islam, they will gather and they will try to destroy the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They will try to destroy the Muslims. They will say, you will do this and I will do this, and they will try to take over the Muslims. The Sahaba are looking at each other, my brothers in Islam, and they are shocked. They are so less in number at this moment in time, the Sahaba, but they are already dominating. They're already dominating. And they are looking at each other. And one of the Sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how will this happen to us? Will we be so less in number? And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, La wa antum kathir, you'll be many and many, heaps and heaps. And he gave the example of the froth of the ocean. You'll be so many, so many, so many. And the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala, they say, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how will this happen to us then? Why will this happen to us? And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that verily wahan will reach the hearts. Will reach the hearts, wahan. And the word wahan, my brothers, is not an Arabic term. But the Sahaba asked Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what is wahan? And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. Hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. That you love the dunya so much that you cannot even bear the thought of dying. You are so engrossed in preparing for the dunya that you forget about the hereafter. You are living your life in this dunya, my brothers, and setting your life in this dunya for your family, for yourself, that you forget about the hereafter and you forget that you are going to meet your Lord one day. This is the life of this dunya, my brothers. The love of this dunya is destroying us, my brothers, in Islam. Our hearts are filled with darkness. Our hearts have become dead because we have forgotten the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are so engrossed in preparing for the dunya that we forget about the hereafter. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, my brothers, who were they? They were those Muslims, those companions who were called barbarians. They were called peasants. They lived in no one's land. The land that they lived on, no one wanted, my brothers. No one wanted. The Roman king, the Persian king, they called them peasants and barbarians. They lived in no one's land. And when the Roman emperor, my brothers, when he saw the Muslims dominating, defeating them, he called a general. And how is this happening, he says? How is this happening to us? And the general, he buckles, he looks down. And he says, are we outnumbered? And the general he says, no. Have they got more weapons than us? He goes, no. Then how on earth is this happening to us? How are people, barbarians, peasants, living on a land that no one wants? How are they defeating and dominating us? And the general, he says to the emperor, can I speak freely? Can I speak honestly? And he said, yeah, please tell me what is happening.